Hello. Hi, Claire. Again, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. This is fantastic.
Am I the first one here?
I think we've got Monica, we've got Molly, we've got Anthony,
And then the president later
Nancy.
Okay, we'll just see if we can get on our, I don't know if,
All right. Okay. There's Nancy and there's, so I see, hey buddy, what's your name? I can't hear you.
Marcos.
Marcos, what's happening, bud? How are you?
I'm really good.
Good, good. You're the most important person on this call, right? Because you're a dyslexic student, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see this? White in my beard. I was once a dyslexic student like you. Now I'm just a dyslexic adult.
we have another dyslexic adult in our family here too. Here he is.
Hey, how are you?
Nice, good. Bringing out all the heavy hitters. Respect. I like that. That's awesome. This is great. Welcome. We're going to just chatter for a few more minutes while we wait for folks to get on. First of all, I want to let you all know this is being recorded so that we could share it with other parents that can't make this. So don't tell us any secrets because other people will know then. Let's just go around the horn and see if we can get a audio on Anthony.
Good morning.
Sounding good. We know Nancy is there. We know Claire is on. Jill Smith, my favorite person in all the state of Iowa. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you, Dean?
Good, good. AVP, I'm not sure.
Yep, that's Anna. I'm also here in Iowa.
Oh, rockin'. Well, now I've got two people competing for my favorite person in Iowa. Okay, we've got ERJ 530 or 530. So you're on mute, but you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's
There-
Emily and David.
Emily and David, thanks for making the call. Angie, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. She got to Thailand before everything kicked in. That was pretty good.
I know, right? Good thinking, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Stephanie, I know, is active because we were just on a call together. Monica, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for making the call.
Thank you.
Molly, there you are.
Yep.
How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. So we can't see you, Molly, but that's fine.
Okay.
If you want to be seen, you can go down to the lower left-hand corner, and there's an icon of video camera, and you can just click that, and we should see you.
Oh, okay.
But
Sorry,
no
my
pressure.
first Zoom meeting. There
Oh,
we
look
go.
at that. Oh, you're a quick study. Well done.
I did it. All right.
Yeah. And Katie Henry, who we cannot see, but is the person you've all been corresponding with at Noticeability, is here. We'll see her smiling face at some point. I'm just going to fill a little bit of time while we wait for anybody else that wants to hop on. But, you know, one of the things that I do notice that's really effective when we do these things is that if you are not speaking, it's great to hit mute just because, you know, the sound of the dishes or whatever seems to break up the feed a little bit. All right, great. This is so cool. I'm so grateful to all of you for being here, and I'm even more excited to get to know your students as best I can in this sort of virtual environment. I wanted to give a quick shout out to to Stephanie, who has her wonderful daughters draped on either side of her, and Claire, who is, Stephanie is joining us from Germany. She's American, but she's in Germany. And Claire is English, but living in Sweden. Claire and Stephanie are two of the volunteer instructors who will be helping us pull this off. So they are mothers of dyslexics and dyslexic heroes as far as I'm concerned, because they're helping us bring this to your families. I will preface this by saying that if there is anybody that wants to volunteer to help us facilitate some of these classes, let me tell you very, very broad brushstrokes what that would look like in case you're interested. First and foremost, it's about an hour and 15 minutes of watching videos online, very easy, self-paced, really just an hour. That'll get you up to speed on sort of the research and the approach and the methodology on how we do what we do. And then that will certify you to then become a facilitator, which means that over the next few weeks, we will assign to you a team of students, 3 students, and essentially your volunteer responsibility, should you choose to accept it, is to join a Zoom call, like the one that we're all on, where you will do essentially 2 things. One is to be an adult facilitator who can be leaned on if the students need any questions. They say, hey, I can't figure this out. Can you help us? Sure, volunteer. But really, we want you to enjoy a cup of coffee and just be in the background. So it's a scaffolding position, not a teaching position. The second thing that we'll need you to do is make sure that students are not using any sort of foul language or bullying each other. It's really just a safeguard to make sure that all of our students are in a safe environment. Now, the upside to this time commitment, which I think after you do the hour of training would probably be amount to conservatively 2.5 hours a week, maybe 3.5 hours. I won't be able to control your enthusiasm, so you may do more, but that's your own fault, I say. The upside is that you can either help facilitate the class for your student, your child, or you can volunteer to facilitate 3 kids who you've never met. The upside is that you are going to see 2 things. First is students engaging in a quote-unquote educational experience without it feeling like school. And for dyslexics, it is like a breath of fresh air to actually feel as if they are learning without going to school. The second thing is you're going to see some young dyslexics overcome some of the trepidation they have about their dyslexia, reach out, embrace their dyslexia, and by the end of the course, you will not be able to pay them enough to give them your dyslexia or for them to give you your dyslexia. They will become dyslexic elitists. They will become dyslexic powerhouses, and that is my goal. So if you want to enjoy the incredible experience of watching these kids realize how absolutely brilliant they are, please reach out to Katie and you can, we'll get you up and running, and we'd appreciate it enormously. Everything we're offering is free, and that is because it's the right thing to do during these times, and secondly, because we've had a couple of angel donors allow us to do that. So they will remain anonymous, but I thank them, and I think we all should include them on our gratitude list. My name is Dean. I'm dyslexic. I love dyslexics. I only want to hang out with dyslexics. I think the coolest people on the earth are dyslexics. Yeah, that's basically all you need to know about me. I'm the father of a 12-year-old dyslexic named Bodhi. I'm the husband of a beautiful dyslexic of 16, 17 years. Feels like yesterday, honey. And I was the son of a dyslexic. My father's deceased, but I really know what it's like to be dyslexic. So that's all I bring. I'm not a teacher, or at least I'm not a traditional teacher, and I'm not a school psychologist administrator. I'm none of those things. I'm just a guy who loves to be dyslexic, and it wasn't always that way, but it is now. So what you should anticipate during this class is hopefully your child getting a taste of what I am saying and starting to reconstruct their understanding of what it means to be dyslexic. Now, if you're on this call, that already means that you're a super supportive, super aware, super proactive parent. So chances are your child is already on their way to understanding that dyslexia has a really significant silver lining to it. So kudos to you. Our job is to help go one step further and actually create some sort of like educational context for them to understand their dyslexia a little bit better and to really sort of create very specific understandings of how the dyslexic mind works in these super unique and powerful ways. So each course is really targeting three things. First and foremost, the course that we're offering now is Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So your students are going to learn about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be an innovator. That's the context. Now, will one of them go off to be the next, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs? I don't know. It's actually irrelevant to me. The reason we use entrepreneurship is because we know that 35% of all dyslexics are entrepreneurs. And the reason why they resonate with that profession is because of the way we think. Part of it is also because we, quite frankly, want to do it our own way because we've spent enough time in the classroom being told what to do, and we want to just show the world what we can do. But there's also neuroscientific reason as to why we're so good at this particular profession. When I say it's irrelevant, because what we're really teaching is social emotional learning. We want these students to understand why active listening and negotiation and conflict resolution are so important to all of us. But in the context of the entrepreneur, these skills are paramount. And so as a kid learns about entrepreneurship and we're saying, hey, if you can't listen to other people, you're done. You're not going to be a good entrepreneur. You have to learn something called empathy. Why? Because you're going to be able to see your potential widget from the perspective of other people and build it in such a way that allows you to sell more of that widget. Now, we as adults know that's actually an act of empathy, trying to understand other people's perspective, but we're putting it in the context of something that feels relevant because empathy is such an abstract idea. So we're teaching the tenets of entrepreneurship. We're teaching the social emotional learning tools that all of us need, but specifically kids with dyslexia because we've been in a pretty inhospitable environment, meaning school. And then the last thing we're learning is what is embedded in this dyslexic mind that makes us so powerful. We're actually hanging terminology on that so that the dyslexic understands that that particular way of thinking actually has a name and it's actually unique to being dyslexic. Because until we understand what these attributes look like, we just assume that every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks the same way, right? We have to articulate that it's a difference in thinking in order for students to understand that it's a huge advantage so they can start exercising that tool, okay? So what this is going to look like, I'm going to pause at some point because I know I'm long-winded, but I'm going to pause for questions, so just bear with me for a little bit longer. We are creating something that is off the cuff here. Normally, what this is delivered as is the online learning experience where your student gets a username and password, which can be the parents' email if you want to add layers of anonymity. That's fantastic. We fully respect that. Please do it. You'll be able to log onto this platform. The student will be able to take each module at their own pace as decided by the team that they will be working with. I'm trying to pack a lot into a clear statement. So your student will be divided into a team, 3 students total, based on approximate age and approximate time zone and approximate like coolness factor. Like we've got a couple of Americans living, English living in Sweden. We've got a couple of Americans living in Germany. How cool is that to have like kids in different countries like working with us? Like that's such a cool factor. Time zone will be a little bit of a challenge, but parents, we're going to work on that. We're going to help facilitate that, right? When those students meet in that first grouping, they're going to have a designated classroom in the Dyslexic Platform. That means that they are going to be completely in a private, confidential little environment, okay? Nobody else can see that except for noticeability, the people at Dyslexic and the students in that classroom, meaning the parents as well. In that, you all can be able to communicate with each other to say, hey, let's have our kids responsible for doing the video portion of the curriculum sometime on Monday and Tuesday, depends on the students and their preferences. But on Wednesday, we're going to meet by Zoom, 3 parents, 1 facilitator, and me jumping into all of them from time to time. We're going to meet on Zoom, and the facilitator is going to be there to support the students, like I said, but is very much going to be in the background to ensure that there's no bullying, bad language, but also provide answers if the students need them. The idea is that that Zoom time is for kids to get together and work as if they were working in the classroom on projects that I am assigning them in the online format. Traditionally, we've just got module 1, 3 videos, maximum 15, 20 minutes. And then class B happens in the classroom where the teacher facilitates those teams. For this particular circumstance, we're now going to have module 1, class B, short videos where I say, okay, you're about to jump into your Zoom meeting. This is what I want you to do when you're in that Zoom meeting. You're going to come up with a company name, and I want you to do the blue goo experiment. The students will know what they're responsible for doing when they go into that Zoom conference, but so will their facilitators. So the facilitator says, all right, guys, so you all know what we're supposed to do, right? Everyone goes, yeah, name our company in Zoom, blue goo. Okay, great. I'm going to sit back, drink my cup of coffee. You have at it. And that's it. Students go off to the races. They get to talk to each other however they want to, as long as they're using supportive language, negotiating conflict effectively. The moment that any sort of bad language or bullying happens, the facilitator is going to shut that down, notify us at the home office. We're going to reach out to the parents of the child and say, we got to work on this, okay? For you students on the line, tell me your name one more time, young man. I'm sorry.
My name is Marcos.
Marcos, okay. So, Marcos, there is a gaming component to this whole thing. Marcos, you're a nice dude. You're never going to say anything negative to your teammates, right? You're that kind of guy. I can tell that about you already, right? However, there's an added incentive when you're working with your team. You know what seed capital is? It's okay. You can just nod or shake your head. It doesn't matter. Seed capital is startup money. I am not giving you real money. I want to make that clear. It's make-believe money. But when you're working with your group, your facilitator at the end of the class is going to give you either $0 because you guys were like arguing the whole time, like, no, my idea is better, or 5 or 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 if you're like, Julie, I hear your idea. I would like to express something differently. Is that okay? Boom, 20 grand, man, because you're using communication style that we as adults have to use. Otherwise, we don't have a job. We don't have a partner. We get cast aside by society. You need to speak nicely to each other to be an effective member of society, right? You also need to speak nicely to each other if you ever want to be an entrepreneur. You know, the most important person on the line besides you is a woman named Katie. She works with me. If I don't treat Katie well, guess what happens to my organization? I have to communicate with Katie in a respectful way because I'm an entrepreneur, but I need teammates to help me run things, okay?
Okay.
Thank you for being my guinea pig in this conversation. A guinea pig is a test subject.
Yes.
I'm not going to treat you like a guinea pig. It's just an expression. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these things, these schedules set up by the parents with the facilitator in that dyslexic classroom. And then it was Marcos or Marco. I'm dyslexic. I'm terrible with names. Marco or Marcos?
Marcos. Marcos.
Why are you spelling to me? You know I can't spell, man. Come on. You're trying to test if I'm really dyslexic? I'm Marcos. I can only remember it. So Marcos, I want to hang out with Marcos and my son Bodhi, who's 12 years old, dyslexic purebred, by the way. And I want to hang out with you guys all day long, but I can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post things on my iDyslexic page that you can check in on, okay? And like, for example, the first thing I'm going to post today is I maybe look like an adult, but I make tons of mistakes. The facilitators that are going to help us run this thing are also adults, but they're going to make mistakes. You know what I did yesterday? We went on a 4-wheel drive trip, and I tried to get across a bridge, and my car went off into a ditch in the snow in a very remote part of Maine. Adults make mistakes. Bear with me as I try to do this. And I'm going to share that story, which is incredibly embarrassing to me. But the sooner you realize that I'm just an older version of you who makes mistakes, the more ready you will be to make mistakes during this class, because making mistakes is part of life. And the better we get at making mistakes, the better we become as human beings.
Yeah.
It's solving problems and reducing the number of mistakes. That's the art, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, sir, brother. I like that about you. So that's what I want to be able to communicate with students, but I'm not going to have as much time to chime in anyway. Whoa, somebody just made a cameo from Thailand. I don't know who that was. What's your name, bud?
Devin.
Devin, I recognize your name, man. Put on sunscreen. The sun is powerful in Thailand. So it's going to be like Devin and Marcos being able to hang out and having, Stephanie in the background, just sort of like drinking her coffee and being there to support you guys. Okay. The idea is that you guys are going to be able to go and run with super cool, fun ideas. And believe it or not, you're going to be learning even though it doesn't feel like school. Sound good? Cool. I'm going to pause because I'm going to have laryngitis and I want to drink my Java. Does anybody have any question? Lots of them, I know.
I actually never, is it okay?
Yeah.
I want to just confirm it's 10 weeks in total? Still.
So thank you. Great question. Normally, and we're so far away from normal, it would be offered 2 hours a week where the teacher in the classroom would go through Class A videos, probably on a smart board, right, on projecting it on to a screen, pause in between each video and say, okay, so tell me, does everybody understand what a stakeholder is? Okay, and everybody sort of chimes in, just clarifying that everybody understands the content of the video. And then you would go on to the next video. That would comprise hour number 1, week number 1. Then hour number 2, week number 1 would be Class B, where the teacher would say, okay, we're going to work in our soul centers. You all will know what that is pretty soon. Basically, it's your team, your little team group. We're going to work on our soul centers, and you need to come up with a blue goo invention. And everybody goes off to their little corner, and kids get to sit on desks and walk around because that's what dyslexics like to do. And that's the second hour. If you spell this out in that sequence, this can be a semester-long course designed for a public school, a private school, homeschool, whatever. Because we're in unique circumstances, if Devin and Marcos and Bodie, my boy, decide, hey, look, we got the time. Let's meet twice a week on Zoom, and we'll do, therefore, 2 modules a week. Well, then it's going to take you about, 4 weeks, right? If you say, hey, look, this is so much fun, so let's do 3 modules a week, because you know what? It counts as screen time in their minds, but it's not screen time. So parents are happy with that. And then an hour after dinner or before dinner, or to break up the monotony of online learning from school, they can Skype call. You can blow through this thing in 2 weeks. It's really what the team wants to do. And that's where we are going to rely on facilitators and parents to just kind of chime in and say, my kid's overwhelmed at school. Can we do Saturday mornings? That's about all we can do. And if, by the way, you find that 2 students in your group want to go super aggressively and 1 student doesn't have the time and has to do it slower, let us know, and we'll jiggle those groups a little bit to get them into an appropriate placement. So there's going to be a lot of learning that goes along, like how to drive in backcountry Maine, for example. There's a lot of learning. Okay, we're going to make mistakes, but everybody on the line, what else are we going to do, right? We're just going to have fun learning how to do this right.
Can I ask another question?
Please.
So, just to get it straight, it seems that we would be watching the module A, but 2 different parts on Monday and Tuesday?
Well, no, I was just so let's say,
I mean, you just take the time to do it on Monday or Tuesday.
yeah, so I'll reverse engineer it. Let's say that I am facilitating a group, and we've decided that we want to meet twice a week at noon. And we're going to meet on Wednesday and Friday, or let's just say Wednesday and Saturday. My group is going to work on Wednesday. That means that each student is responsible for going through the 18 minutes, give or take, of Class A before Wednesday. And responsible for going through the videos on Module 2 Class A before Saturday. Now, we have inserted a little bit of pre-video, a little tiny short video, me laying out what's supposed to happen during that Zoom call. So technically, there's about a 5 to 6 minute video for Class B, which can literally be watched like, okay, we're meeting at noon. It's 11:45. I'm going to watch what the Dean video from Class B says before I jump on my Zoom call, so I know what we're going to be doing. But the facilitator will also know, just in case that doesn't happen. We've included in each video, I'm not talking about the budget version of Class B, which I'm doing in the basement of the house we're staying in front of like a black comforter with like a lousy light sticking in my face. in the class A, which is really professionally done, or as professional as a small nonprofit can do, there's also, you'll see go further options, okay? And those go further options, if the student is really jacked up about how, learning how stakeholder behavior affects an entrepreneur, there's a video link to Damon John, one of the sharks, talking about how his dyslexia made him a super good entrepreneur. So there's like, a student can take the opportunity to go further and learn more and watch other videos if they want to. And for Devin and Marcos, all you have to say is, Mom, Dad, I am watching the go further. When they say get off your screen, you say, I'm watching the go further. Wink, wink. See, more screen time, brother. Who's looking out for you? Am I right? Okay, so there's that option. The other cool thing is that as dyslexics, we hate to write notes, right? Notes are ridiculous. So what we did is we created notes for every module. So if I am talking about interconnected reasoning, and Marcos wants to remember what interconnected reasoning was, there's actually a very pictorial-oriented version of notes for him to download or to print off, and he can say, oh, that's right, interconnected reasoning is my ability to see trends emerge from disparate, pieces of evidence. And he'll be able to refer to those. So there's a lot of scaffolding built in that you as parents can print out to check out. Please, I invite you to watch the videos yourselves. I mean, if I will be obviously doing this with my son, I would love to be doing this with my son, even if I wasn't the one who is responsible for the teaching. It's a fun thing to do. What we've tried to do is toggle that relationship between parent and child when it comes to homework. There's not a lot of homework, but there's a lot of like, okay, we've come up with an invention. Now go and interview stakeholders to get their feedback, right? Now, Marcos is going to Mom to interview her as a potential stakeholder, which is a very different dynamic when it comes to homework than Mom saying, Marcos, you've got to do it. You've just got to stop playing. You've got to do, right? It's meant to make parents more proactive in a really sort of fun way. So Marcos can Skype or Zoom with his grandmother because she's a different demographic and she's a different stakeholder, right? Grandma, of course, is psyched that Marcos wants to Zoom with her, right? Because she wants to see more of her grandchild, right? It works for everybody.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
How will the groups be put together? And I don't really need specifics, and this is specific to me. I have twin boys. Will they be in the same group? Would they be in different groups?
Yeah, my instinct was given, and I'm not a parent of. I'm a parent of a single child, so I'm an only child by my mother, and got a couple of half brothers. So I know nothing about siblings really. My initial instinct was you got two kids under one roof and you're probably trying to break up hockey brawls all day. So my instinct was, why not give them each a group so that they can get away from each other a little bit and have something that's special to them, and they can talk about it over dinner, be like, oh, I called grandma too to get her reaction to our invention, and they can be operating sort of independently but also together. So if you want your kids to be in the same group, I mean, we're basing them mostly on approximate age.
Okay.
And if you really have a specific need to have both your kids together, please let us know. But it's been really advantageous to see like an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old come into the from the same family,
Sure.
so I can break them up and match them with other kids.
Okay. Yes, I'm comfortable with that. That sounds great. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, you got some hockey brawls. I'm a huge hockey fan, so yeah.
Dean, I have a logistical question, or maybe
Yes,
a technology question. It sounded like you wanted us to set up an account for the kiddos on iDyslexic, which I believe we've done. I'm not familiar, obviously, with that platform at all. Are the videos going to come in through that platform, or is there a secondary place where we'll be going out to find the videos for them?
Thank you so much for that question. So there's really there's three places that you're going to want to check in. First of all is the Teachable platform. Teachable is the company that we use for our what's called LMS, Learning Management System. So it's all of the online learning, the videos about entrepreneurship and innovation are in Teachable. And that's a super easy platform to navigate. If you can't figure it out, ask your kid because they'll figure it out in 30 seconds. The iDyslexic platform is used for two things. The first is to create that classroom, which is confidential and private, so that it may be a bust, it may work out, I don't yet know, but the idea is so that they can like upload pictures of their work and stuff like that, and we as parents can see it, the facilitator can see it, but it's not public, so we're able to communicate in a visual way and in a private environment. The last thing is iDyslexic has, we have to use Facebook and Twitter, but I don't like it because I just don't like my life being exposed that way. But for my dyslexic family, I have no problems. Like, I love to be vulnerable and be candid about who I am because I love my people, you know what I mean? And so I'm going to post things on my iDyslexic page just so that there can be some fresh interaction with me on a daily basis, because I think it'll lend itself to the classroom component or the Zoom or the online component. There's a consistency that I want to create. I want to hang out with Marcos and I want to hang out with Grace and Sienna over in Germany, but I can't. I got to run this organization and take care of my son's homework with him, right? So iDyslexic allows me to just sort of stay active on a daily basis with the students as well.
Really helpful. Thank you.
They may be like, this guy's a clown, and that's fine too. They don't have to look at it. That's fine.
Can I just clarify?
Yes, ma'am.
So the module 1,
yep,
that will come from the normal curriculum that we would normally use on Teachable.
Yep.
So we would just, I haven't even opened it yet. So we would click on it, open it, and the videos would just pop up.
Yeah. So
and the students, how will they, who are not living under my own roof, how would that student then forget that video?
So thank you. And I just want to give a shout out to Stephanie. Anybody who is interested in being an instructor, again, 1 hour of prep time, right? What Stephanie is doing is she clearly wants to get this right, which means that how awesome that we've got volunteers who have just stepped up to ensure that your students are having the most optimal experience. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you for doing that. So this is going to become more clear when you log on. So you're going to see, you're going to have the same student view as the students do. Okay, we're going to enroll you as if you were a student, Stephanie, plus each one of your daughters, either with their email, or if you want to be confidential about that, have one login with your husband's email, etc., right? They'll have an individual user account. When they go in there, they'll say, oh, okay, so I see it says Module 1, Class A, 1, 2, 3 videos. Module 1, Class B, 1 video, because that's the prep for the Zoom call. And then it'll go to Module 2, Class A, where there's 3 videos that have a lot of good quality content. And then there will be Module 2, Class B, which is Dean on his makeshift studio in the basement, giving you prep.
And this is on Teachable.
All this is on Teachable, one-stop shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
The iDyslexic, that will just be where they can post their work for each other to see in a safe environment, and they can see posts from you checking in and
Exactly.
keeping in
Exactly.
touch, kind of.
So the classroom on
And
iDyslexic,
the Zoom is completely kind of separate. That
yeah, the Zoom is where students and their facilitator get to meet and actually have a dialogue. So Marcos says, during his Zoom call with his team, he goes, okay, we've all got this awesome blue goo invention. I love to draw. Why? Because he's got great narrative reasoning skills through the pen or through the crayon, right? He goes, hey, let me draw this up. I'll take a picture and I'll upload it to our classroom so Dean can check it out there. That's really the only purpose that this classroom will serve. Is sort of, it's like it may be a bust. It may be a bust. We may decide this is too difficult, but ideally, if it works, we'll be able to. It's like a cork board that you could just sort of stick up pictures of what you've done and communicate privately in that environment. The iDyslexic page is just Dean push communication, right? Me just doing silly things, goofy things. Hey, I found some footprints in the snow. Anybody know what animal this is? Hopefully Marcos goes, oh, let me Google that, right? Now all of a sudden, inadvertently, Marcos is like, looking up indigenous wildlife species to northern Maine and hunting down, tracks in the snow. That's cool. That's education, right? So that's just kind of the purpose behind that. The iDyslexic platform, I've said this, or Katie has conveyed this in emails, is got a layer of security and a layer of privateness, because what they do is they verify users. So you're not going to have spam bots. You're not going to have anonymous trolls. You're not going to have any of that, because each user is traceable to an IP address, which means that anybody who wants to do or say bad things wants to keep that layer of anonymity so they can be trolls. And what iDyslexic is strips that away so that everybody is verified user. Now, again, I'm not tech savvy, so I have said, and I will say for both responsible parent perspective as well as legal perspective, do what you're comfortable with. Okay? I'm not a Silicon Valley guy, so I can't say any more than what I've been told by the company, and they're awesome. There are two guys, basically. I was over in Ireland about 3 months ago with my son, Bodhi. These are real live people. The guy that started it is dyslexic, rockin' guy. The COO is dyslexic. He's got 3 kids, all of whom have dyslexia. One is on the autism spectrum. I mean, these are like living, breathing people who actually want desperately to hear from Marcos, hey, this feature is lousy. They want end user feedback so that they can improve their site. And what I love about it is that the one thing that I hear from every student with dyslexia is there is this, albeit fictitious, but there is this belief that they are alone on this journey. And iDyslexia is bringing the tribe together in a really transparent way. And I think that's valuable.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I really like how you were discussing earlier on that the children can go speak to grandma about a piece of work that they're doing in class and how excited they are. And I wondered, how much time do we hope that the children will spend doing this? Is there like some encouragement that they should do it in a particular amount of time?
So that's a great question. And what this is like, I told Marcos early on in this discussion that I'm just an older version of him, right? I tried to engineer this thing from the perspective of my younger self and what I would want to do. So I didn't want to do homework, but I wanted to do fun things. right? So the hope is that there's two components. First, that, you know, my mother wants to Skype or, you know, FaceTime with my son, and they wind up kind of sitting there being like, so what'd you do today? And my son's like, I went outside. And she's like, what'd you do outside? Right? It's just like, it's not very organic, right? So this is an opportunity where I think my son would be like, I'd be like, hey, why don't you Skype Nenny? And he would be like, oh, that's awesome. I can do that and ask her about my invention, right? So my hope is that there's an organic desire to do some of this work, or at least contextualize some of those relationships during this time, with giving them a sense of purpose to sort of, you know, create a little social lubricant between some of those awkward generational FaceTimes, right? The second thing is that the kids, I think, generally speaking, start to self-monitor each other as a team. It's really inappropriate for a 6th grade teacher to text a 6th grade student at 11 o'clock at night saying, have you done your homework tomorrow? Right? That's entirely inappropriate. But Marcos will not think twice about emailing Devin and saying, dude, have you done what we're supposed to do tomorrow? We got to be on Zoom tomorrow. Have you done it? There is a built-in accountability, and we as educators like to call it, oh, that's executive functioning. They are teaching each other how to be time managers, keep each other on schedule, how to be accountable. It's kind of like an organic executive functioning exercise, or at least that's what I hope it will be.
Seems
I've
really
had,
good idea.
I've had these three, like, you know, like 6th, 7th grade boys, like, Marcos, how old are you?
I am 10 years old.
All right, so you're not at that too cool for school age. You're still like a cool guy, like in my book, cool guy. But when kids your age, if we turn into like 7th graders, they'd be like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. Like, but even though they want to, right? So I had this group of like 6th or 7th graders who would go out. They were all dyslexic. They were in a mainstream school. They would all meet out on the playground, and they'd call their conversation the Minecraft conversation, which was a code to talk about what they were doing in the noticeability classes, right? They'd go out on recess to talk about what they were doing in a class. Like, that never happens for dyslexic students, ever, right? So it's just kind of cool to see them actually like feeling good about what they're learning, feeling enthusiastic. So I touched my face, but my hands are clean. Don't touch your face, Marco. Marcos, don't touch your face. You've been hearing that from your school?
Not really, but
You
I
might
hear you.
if we were to go back.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, at home you can touch your face. So does anybody have any other questions? I mean, there's a lot that I've unloaded here.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're just trying to schedule all the other homeschooling and with our other kids. I guess just basically, if let's say you did the meeting on Wednesday and Saturday with the group, about how many hours per week do you think all of this? And I understand you can go down a lot further, but just kind of give me an average, because we're really trying to figure out our schedule this next week.
I am right there with you. It's amazing. Apparently, I signed up for a job at my son's school, which is called co-teacher, right? So we have all of a sudden become co-teachers plus full-time, you know, like working parents. It's ridiculous. I hear you. I think that my son, and I'll speak only for myself, my son who is cranking, not in a good way, but he's cranking out from 9 a.m. to about 4 p.m. schoolwork. I think that he would probably put in an average of, willingly, I think he would be excited to do this for probably about 2 1-hour Zoom conferences, because there's the interconnected component, talking to other students. And then the videos would probably take him half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 at the most. So I'm guessing that the minimum that he will be asked to do is Zoom conference, 45 minutes of video, less than 3 hours a week. I think he will want to do more than that because he gets to hang out with Marcos and he gets to hang out with, Grace in Germany. Like, that's cool. So I think he'll want to do more Zoom time.
On the 3 hours, is that Zoom time and working independently time as well? Or is there 3 hours of more or less Zoom time and then working independently on top of it?
Yeah, I'd say that's if you're doing 2 Zoom times a week, that's 2 hours of Zoom time a week, and then 45 minutes of video watching.
I see. Okay.
But again, if your new homeschooling job is a really heavy lift, we might need to toggle some of these working groups because your son and my son actually are cranking from 9 to 3 p.m. and we don't have enough time to do 2 sessions a week. Maybe we only want to do 1 session a week, in which case we can regroup those students together to fit, have similar schedules.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, we'll work with you. I'll be honest, we're kind of toning down the traditional schoolwork and focusing more on work and services that are more for dyslexics. So I think time will be fine, but 3 hours a week plus, we'll be able to fit that in, no problem. So thank you for the answer.
No problem. When we were speaking to, may I have is it not up here? Okay, sorry. No, it's okay. Thank you. All right. Well, we've got 11% to finish this meeting. My computer. Would you mind? Thank you so much. As I was saying we had a facilitator conference call before this, and in that same vein, I said to actually Grace, who's one of our Americans living in Germany, I said, Grace, tell your mom that you don't want to let school get in the way of your education right now. Right? I mean, it's amazing. Like, we have this incredible opportunity to teach our kids in the way that we know they want to learn, and balancing that with the way that the school believes they need to be learning is a tricky endeavor. But our hope, thank you so much, is that this will allow us. I got into a little bit of psychobabble with the facilitators earlier. A guy named Martin Seligman, who is one of my professional heroes, is a guy who coined the term learned helplessness, and then over the last 30 years has devoted his work to something called learned optimism. And what we're doing through this course is we're trying to allow students to kind of recalibrate the neural pathways associated with how they perceive their dyslexia and transfer it from the negative that they're taught in school to the positive, which will hopefully become a sort of a self-perpetuating model of empowerment. And as lousy and horrific and scary as this time may be, it has provided us with a really, really unique window to engage our students in the way that we want to teach them. And so I applaud you for customizing your children's education during this time. I got a battery charger, so I'm at 10% now, but I'm still going. But please, any questions?
It's always me.
You go, yeah, bring it.
So tomorrow it starts. We can start.
So when Dean gets off this call, he's going to go into the basement and shoot a few more videos and hopefully get us about 3 weeks ahead of the schedule. And then I will add new videos ahead of the pace of any one group. I have to receive feedback from you all regarding things that we've discussed here, facilitator scheduling, parent preferences on scheduling. We've got to toggle some groups a little bit. What else do we need to do? My board, the lawyer on my board needs to get back to me with a waiver. Why? Because we're in the most ridiculously litigious country in the world, which means I have to make sure that my little tiny nonprofit, which has a budget of next to nothing and is probably going to have less than nothing because of all this, doesn't go out of business because somebody gets angry at us. So I got to wait for that. Let's say really optimistically that we'll give you as parents more stuff to do tomorrow, but I'm hoping that Wednesday everybody's groups be together and we'll have you housed in iDyslexic and onboarded into the new curriculum and introduced to the instructor, and then 18 other things that I'm not remembering that I need to do before this starts. But hopefully with your feedback, this first cohort becomes successful because we've closed this cohort now and we've got a waiting list starting for the next cohort. If we can get this one going and iron out some of the bumps, then we can start doing serving a lot more families.
I have a question.
Yes.
Normally with the noticeability program, there's kind of a presentation at the end with parents or teachers or other classrooms, all of this, which is super exciting. I think the children are going to be really thrilled to do that. And I'm just wondering if you've any ideas how we might facilitate that with this particular way of working.
Claire, that is so cool. That is so cool because there's nothing. Yeah. There is nothing cooler than watching these students present their final business plan. Bodhi, my son, calls it the Fishbowl, not Shark Tank, because it's Shark Tank without the attitude, right? So the Fishbowl Presentation. I think, we sent that, we're going to send to you like a photo release where we can have permission, like Marcos is protected by HIPAA and COPA, right? So we need to make sure that he feels comfortable being viewed, right, or recorded. And the idea is that for those students that have signed that, whose parents have signed that, they say, yeah, we'd like to. I would love to send out a Zoom meeting for parents, not only of the students that are making the presentation, but other parents of kids who are enrolled. And we can have a fishbowl party like this, where all of you will be on mute and the 3 students will be presenting, and they will present their business idea. And then the most important thing, we get to unmute at the end and say, Marcos, you, my friend, are going somewhere. I have never considered that solution to that problem. I would buy your product in a heartbeat. And Marcos goes out into the backyard, which is the only place he can go, and he's walking on clouds. So we could have fishbowl parties. That would be awesome. That would be so awesome. Yeah.
My son's 13, and I think he's just going to absolutely love that. Really.
That's the most selfish thing I can do, because I love watching these kids present. It's totally selfish. I'm going to have a huge party.
Yeah, that's part of working with kids, is watching them enjoy themselves. Definitely.
Exactly. Wow. So I'm pumped up. So I'll pause to see if there's any more questions, Stephanie. Just kidding. and then I'll just recap. All right. So please send an email to Katie, if you would, after this call, if A, you've got children that you need to be in the same group, or if they can be split into two different groups. B, if you have decided that you want to facilitate either your own child's group, or if your child has had enough of you and would like a different facilitator, we can have you facilitate another group. If you have any really explicit scheduling conflicts, like my son's school is just working him so much that I think I can only do one Zoom meeting a week, or I want to do 5 Zoom meetings a week. If it's sort of an outlier in that regard, please let us know. Any other action items that we discussed? Okay. Hey Marcos, do you think it would be cool for me to post pictures of me sitting on top of my truck that is caught in a snowbank?
Would you like to see that?
Sure.
He's like, no, man, bury that. That should be embarrassing to you, old man. No.
You want to see it, but I do.
It was so awesome. There is a Maine, people are from Maine, like deep Maine, are called Maynards. The most beautiful Maynard rocks up with the most like jacked up snow cat ever. And he's taking his hat off. He's just rubbing his head because I've got Massachusetts plates. And he's looking at me going, so Massachusetts, right? And as he's about to unload this wonderful thick Maine accent about, oh, you can't get there from here, right? He takes off his hat as my foot falls through the road that we're on into the river, which has completely mitigated this entire road. So my foot goes through into a river. I pull it out, my boot, I empty my boot. I'm standing there with one boot, a soaking foot, a car in the ditch, and Massachusetts plates. And he takes a picture of me. I go, man, how much do I have to pay you to erase that picture? He's like, it was awesome. So, Marcos, I'm just an older, flabbier version of you, man. I make plenty of mistakes, my friend.
Okay.
All right. Well, if that's it, thank you for taking your Sunday to devote to this. Can't wait to meet your kids. It's going to be a total blast. I will see many of you on an individual level, but we can regroup next time we have a fishbowl party. And please let me know what else you need from us. I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rest of your weekend.
Well, you can find me in the basement. See you all soon. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.